Welcome to the Do Nothing Project, our little meditation hangout on Sunday evening. So whoever wants to join me, and folks tune in live, and I think lots of people listen to it later, the next day, whenever. And really, it's just an opportunity to meditate in this virtual community. So wherever you are in North America, in Europe, anywhere, people really from all around, just tune in, meditate together, and use an opportunity to ask questions too, just to connect. And I really look forward to this. It's interesting. It's sort of like the most stabilizing part of my week in a way. Whenever just getting the chance for me to be able to like hold space in meditation, it forces me to be mindful in a particular way and present in a particular way that's really good for me. So I look forward to these things. And originally with all this, the intention was that I would kind of come up with a meditation ahead of time, kind of think about what I would do, and then tell you guys ahead of time, oh yeah, this is what's going to happen on this day. But really, it's not really working out that way. And I think it's because I much prefer to just come up with something on the fly based on what's actually going on in my life, going on in my experience. And that's definitely the case today and tonight. So we just got back. Sarah and I were just in New York for the weekend, which was really fun. Our friends have a Parkinson's fundraiser that they did in this big kind of friend group party thing. So we went down and I hung out with Dan and hung out with some of my New York friends, and we got back today. But it was a bit of a gong show getting home. We basically left a little late in the morning. We forgot, when you leave out of Newark in New York, it's kind of a nightmare. You got to get all the way to Newark, first of all, which is multiple trains and subways, and then you got to catch your flight on time. And we just mismanaged the timing. So we left a little late, and we kind of missed a subway and caught a later subway, and then we ended up missing the New Jersey Transit train to Newark. So then we had to wait like 45 minutes, and we basically realized that we were going to miss our flight. And it was just, and the reason I'm telling this story is I'm telling you about what happened, how I used meditation in this situation, and what's kind of end up inspiring what we're going to do tonight. So I'm sitting there in the New Jersey train station, and Sarah and I are just like, we're fucked. Like we looked up on the thing, and the amount of time it took to get through we knew we were looking at the waiting times in the airport, and for the gate we were leaving, the waiting times, we thought it said an hour. So we realized there was no way we were going to make it. So just this, all this, the feeling, when all the stresses that come from travel, like you're tired, you're just done all these trains and automobiles, now everything's falling apart. And I just felt so horrible. I just felt so mad and so upset. And we were looking at flights, and we were basically all the other flights were sold out. The only ones available were it was going to cost us basically an extra $1,000 to get home, which we don't, we're just like, how are we going to afford that? So we're just so bummed out. And I just could feel myself going through all of these different, I was so angry, and my whole body was just sort of filled with this chemical feeling of just being angry and hopeless, and you're stressed, that stress feeling. And but because I have my mindfulness thing, and just as a default, I'm kind of observing myself, and how hilarious this is. And what I was observing was that, first of all, the whole body just filled that chemical, that horrible, stressed, tense, coagulated feeling. And then also this, I could see, because I was mad, because I have such a well-developed fight, blame someone reflex, I could see I was trying to find someone to be mad at. I could see this, I'm mad at myself. I'm mad at Sarah. I'm mad at New Jersey. I'm mad at trains. I'm mad at the phenomenon of civilization, whatever. I could just see the anger part of me looking for something to blame, which was absurd. There's nobody to blame except for myself. But even then, it was just an honest mistake. So in this state of just agonizing unhappiness, hold on a second. Tristan's calling me. Hold on. Hey, man.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Is this a good time? Can I grab you 5 minutes? I need your
Oh, I thought you were calling because you were watching the No, I'm doing my live stream right now. I thought maybe the audio didn't work.
Oh,
No problem. Call me after. Okay, bye. Sorry about that. Tristan sometimes is on the live stream, so I thought maybe something was wrong with the audio, so I turned that off. Anyway, so because I have my practice, I just was watching all of this, and I realized, there's nothing I can do. Basically, we're screwed. It's going to happen one way or another. We just got to catch this train. So I did this thing where I just was watching. So I did this, or I could recognize what was happening in me. I could recognize these, childish and human reactions. I started just exploring where I was feeling it. I could feel it was all through my throat and my chest, and like definitely in my throat, and like the anger in my jaw. And then I just kind of like felt it out, checked it out, and then I basically did this thing of like I accepted all of it as being there, and I just let myself have this experience. And then I did a little compassion meditation. And I'm not kidding you, it changed everything. Within 2 minutes, and it takes a while. It's like the bell of that stuff gets rung. You're going to be in that terrible state for a while. But it was like maybe 5-10 minutes. And then just the process of kind of accepting it just was gone. And I ended up in a much better state. And we got to the airport. And by absolute miracle, we ended up catching this other train that got us to the gate on time. There was no line up at the gate, unlike what it said on the thing. So we ended up getting through and catching our flight. So in other words, whatever, all that anger was sort of for nothing. But I was so happy to have my practice, because if I didn't have it, I would have just been in this absolutely miserable state, being miserable to Sarah, being miserable with myself. And I just was grateful that I had it. So I don't know. This whole thing is supposed to be based in real life. That's a real life shit that happened to me today. I decided because of that, I want to use this opportunity to actually guide a practice around that. Basically guide a practice called RAIN, which many of you guys might already know. It sort of became famous through Tara Brach, although many meditators have used this acronym for ages. And RAIN is an acronym, and it stands for recognize, accept, investigate. And the N is either non-identify or nurture, depending on what context and what you want to do. And we'll explore both those options. And it's basically mindfulness 101. It's mindfulness broken down into a series of steps that allows you to come to grips with where you're at, and then pass more easily through the experience, come into a more accepting and open place. And it allows you to kind of metabolize whatever stuff was getting stuck or whatever you were holding on to. So I thought I would guide that today. And what's really cool about RAIN is it's impartial. It's equally valid as a technique to apply to really pleasurable experiences, really peaceful experiences. It allows you to go more deeply in them, and it can be applied to uncomfortable experiences. It's just something you do with your awareness, where you recognize what's happening, you open to the experience more fully, and you kind of like, if it's a positive thing, you kind of savor the full experience as it's unfolding. If it's a more challenging emotion, then you just allow it to be there as it unfolds. And it has the same effect in both cases. It allows you to kind of, in a sense, taste into those things more deeply, so they can then pass through you and become updated with the next thing. So if it's a positive thing, then you're continually reinforcing the positive piece of it. It's very interesting. So I'm going to lead that practice. And if you guys have a question about this after, you're welcome to ask me a question, and maybe I'll say something about it too. Something more about it. So we'll do, I think what time is it now? 8:10. So we'll do a 25-minute sit. How about that? And welcome all you guys. I'm glad you're here. So let's do this meditation practice called RAIN. Okay, good. So as always with these practices, if you have the Do Nothing Project, any kind of stream I do, it's very much in your court what practice you want to do. If you have a go-to that you like to stay with, then that's fine. You can just do that practice and just be kind of joining us in community here. But if you want to follow along with me, I'll guide this RAIN practice. So I like to start with just a couple of deep breaths to kind of get myself a little oriented and settled. So the in-breath is the upward motion, stretching up the spine. And then the downward motion is the exhale. That's sort of the settling. And that's really every time I exhale, I kind of try to feel my feet on the ground, or my seat on the cushion or the chair or wherever I'm sitting. And as I breathe out too, just kind of breathing out any tension, like maybe tension in the forehead or in the jaw, softening the cheeks, softening the hands. Softening the belly for sure. And just connecting to this equanimity, this deep equanimity training that we're always doing in the Do Nothing project. We're always doing the equanimity piece, which is around, okay, this is where I am. This is my reality right now, wherever you are. The sounds in your environment are the sounds in your environment. And just letting them be there in the background. The state of your body is the state of your body. Your aches and pains, your thoughts, all of it's welcome. Kind of begin from that welcome to the party kind of mature stance. And this is a great place to meditate from, actually, just sitting in a more kind of open awareness stance. Lots of people just like to hang out here. But we're going to do a little more of an exploration, looking at this idea of rain, this very basic kind of mindfulness form of exploration, which is about checking in with where we're at and opening to it, investigating it. So the R of rain is recognize. So that means, like, it's basically what's up, what's going on with you right now. It's like a little kind of top level snapshot survey of what's happening in your particular mind body situation. So it may be that you're still you're a bit buzzy. You were moving around a lot before you sat down here. So there's still some kind of energy and excitement, movement going on inside. Agitation or something, and that's fine. So you're just kind of checking in, noticing, oh yeah, that's what I got going on. Or maybe you're feeling calm, kind of neutral. That's also something you could notice. Or maybe there's sort of a background emotion that you brought with you. Either in the background, maybe a background sadness, or maybe a melancholiness, or just be anything. Light frustration, excitement, tingly excitability, who knows what. The recognize is just saying, you're kind of just sweeping through your quick sweep through your mind body, just sort of checking in what's going on. And it doesn't have to be also necessarily emotional, anything going on in your experience. And maybe that you got lots of thoughts. Okay, I recognize I got lots of thoughts. Or you got a few aches and pains somewhere. Or you're hungry, tired. So the recognize is the figuring out what the deal is. And if there's nothing much going on, then just what you're recognizing is that there's nothing much going on. You're kind of in a neutral, relatively neutral, centered place. So the second step in rain is accept. Wherever you are, can you completely accept what it is you've found, whatever is happening? So accepting your neutrality, your peacefulness, your agitation, your tiredness, your little bit of sadness, whatever's going on. Saying, oh yeah, you're welcome here. You're welcome here. And now we come to a sort of fork in the road. The fork is, for some of us, we have that welcoming attitude, cool. Now we want to just focus on something to get kind of absorbed. And that's a legitimate way to go. We don't necessarily want to go into what we're noticing. We just want to focus on maybe the breath, sounds, and that's totally fine. So that's one way you can go. Or another way is to move towards the actual stuff that you're discovering. And that's the investigation piece. And that can be done regardless of what's there. You can investigate a feeling of stillness and peacefulness, getting really curious about where the epicenter of that is. Where is it coming from? And slowing everything down to match that. You can investigate the breath, feeling its edges. Investigate sound, or you can go right into investigating feelings. Investigating even uncomfortable sensations. Investigate means noticing and getting curious about the changeability of the sensation, the location of it, the edges of it. It's like you're turning up the resolution dial. So I'll let you guys try this for a little bit, just opening and feeling. If you're working with, say, an emotion and it seems like kind of intense, it's up to you whether you want to stay with it, or you want to just sort of shift into something more neutral, like the breath or sounds or the feet on the ground. Maybe you want to stay there from the beginning, but you can still investigate those things too. Just noticing them more clearly, getting curious about them. So try this for a little while. Okay, good. So we're exploring this RAIN technique, which is really is mindfulness 101. It starts with recognizing something that's happening in our experience. Could be, an emotion in our body. Could be the presence of thinking. It could also be body sensations. Could be external stuff. Really anything. And then you accept it's there because it is there. And then you investigate it. You just kind of get curious about it, like it's this weird little organism in your body. And this is a bit of the non-identify thing. It's sort of like it's just this curious creature. Because if you can notice it, it's not the center of you. It's just part of the activity of you, activity of your personality, but it's not the center of your looking. So you're curious whether it's external to you, literally in the form of sounds or sights, or it's in a sense external to your looking, to your feeling. It's still part of you, but you can kind of get some space around it. And you just let it do its thing as you watch it. Curious how it changes. I kind of like to infuse the nurture piece here too, which is the N. Nurture could be not identify, or N can be not identify or nurture. So that's like, I kind of try to find some affection for the thing I'm noticing. It's very much like being a field naturalist. You're out in the field somewhere, and you're kind of watching some animal over the water hole, and you feel this affection for the little critter, and watching it, curious about its habits. That's what you're doing with this part of yourself, whatever part you're looking at. And that can even be, even if you're having a very neutral, peaceful experience, you can kind of get curious about that peaceful neutrality. Like, where is it emanating from? Or are its edges? Does it have it can be tricky, just something worth exploring. Of course, the other option here is that you just have some regular old thing you're working with, like the breath, which is cool, and just let yourself get absorbed in that. So it's just an option. And I should just say here, if you're working with any emotional feeling in your body, sometimes when you investigate it and open to it, it can get intense. It can kind of spike up a bit. So then you have an option at that point. You can stay with it if you like. If you feel like resourced, you can kind of stay with it and kind of open to it and explore. It usually has sort of a bell-shaped curve. Or if you don't really feel up to going into that right now, then you can kind of shift your attention away and kind of ground down in some other sensation and just sort of let that play out in the background. The key point is, though, that you're kind of your own teacher. You're your own expert in your nervous system and what pacing yourself looks like. This is part of kind of understanding ourselves, and what we can go into at a particular time. Whatever you do, as much as possible, infusing the whole exploration with good-naturedness, a sense of humor. Good. So practice like this, sometimes what we're exploring kind of changes and disappears. Can't really find it anymore. At that point, you can move to another object, to something else, or you can just sort of keep your attention where it was and get really curious about the most subtle, softest part of what was there, kind of holding that direction, curious about the relative blankness now, peacefulness now. Okay, good. We'll just finish with a little improvised nurture positive / loving kindness practice. Let's actually do it totally related to the practice we're doing. So no matter what you hear or notice right now, whatever comes into your awareness, first thing you do is go, welcome to the party. So maybe it's the sound of a bird, maybe you're noticing your hunger or a thought. You just go, welcome. And then you go, I love you. Or whatever feels right for you. I like you. You're awesome. Whatever the sensation is, just like deliberately put a pulse of being friendly to the thing you're noticing. So it helps to smile because this is kind of ridiculous, but also excellent practice. So whatever you notice, maybe at a pace that works for you, every 1 or 2 seconds, welcome. Welcome sensation of having a face. You're the best. Welcome sound of your annoying meditation teacher. I like you. Welcome feeling of having a leg. You're awesome, leg. And what you're saying is awesome is just the sensation, the experience of that thing. Try this for a little bit, our improvised loving kindness rain practice. Welcome, and then some friendly pulse. Welcome, breath. I love you. Welcome, random image of a cheeseburger. I do love you. Okay, nice. Let's wind this guy up. Okay. Thank you guys for meditating with me. Nice to see Rena there, Susie. Hi, Cheryl, Stephen. Awesome. People doing chats on the side there. So that was the meditation. We have an opportunity to do kind of questions, talk about anything. Hey, Eric. Hey, Melissa. Hey, Bill. So you guys, if you have a question about that particular technique, it's an interesting technique. You're welcome to ask it on the side. I think someone actually wrote in a question about this now that I'm looking. Yeah, okay. Yeah, somebody has a question here that sent in a question around working with fear and aggression and anxiety. So just saying that they open to it, and sometimes there can be a real intense feeling. And also they're saying particularly sometimes they hear their neighbors and it brings up a kind of anxiety and fear, but also some aggression. And that they meditate in the room where that is sort of ground zero. And so he says, my question is, what would you suggest doing while working with anxiety, fear, and aggression? I do your rain meditation. Just keep open to it and keep at it. Look for the part of me that is wishing the anxiety away. Okay, that's the question. Well, super awesome question. And it's just a coincidence, literally, that was the top of the list of the questions that we did rain today. Okay. So how do I frame this? So basically, one of the very helpful, deeply helpful things about a meditation practice in particular, but about any kind of meditation practice is it can help with these intense feelings of whatever they are, challenging emotions. And they have different ways of doing it, different techniques and different strategies. So your typical absorption concentration meditation, the strategy is more just you're getting absorbed in a sensation and it's starting to get peaceful ideally. And that peacefulness kind of flows out into your life. And it has a positive effect overall on the amount of like challenging emotions that you have. You could say it kind of cools and softens them out a little bit. And then you have, say, a strategy like the rain practice that we did today, a noting practice, a mindfulness practice, which is more about, it has the option in it to tackle those things head on. And so the question is, should you do it? The answer is it kind of depends on you and where you're at. Sometimes tackling them head on can be really helpful. And I'll talk a little bit about that. I mean, we just did that. It can be a way to actually kind of like recognize that they're happening. You open to them, and in the opening, they can kind of begin to work themselves out. So it can be really powerful practice for that reason. That's not the intention of what it is. Partly, a deep insight or mindfulness practice is about moving you towards a place of true insight about the operations of the mind and body. And part of that insight is recognizing how what they would call the kleshas, the tough mind-body challenging stuff, how it operates and how it's actually kind of not the center of you. It's just things that are moving through you. And as you open in the practice, it can begin to metabolize and work through some of that stuff. So that can definitely happen. But the point here is that you have to feel like you're kind of resourced for it. And this is a kind of new understanding that's a little different than maybe the hardcore, original initial hardcore mindfulness practitioner understanding, which was the default advice was always just open to it, explore it. It's not you, it's just groundless sensation, and then eventually it'll work its way out. Well, that does happen a lot of the time, but other times it can actually spike and get really intense, and it doesn't feel like it's working its way out, or it feels like it's taken a really long time to do that. And in that case, it's sort of like that's where it's really helpful to have somebody to be checking in with, like a kind of more mental health professional. But the main person to be checking in with is yourself, because you're your own main teacher. And it's sort of, and the thing I do is like, do I feel resourced to be able to do that right now? To be able to go into what I know is going to be a big spike of sadness that might keep me in the sadness for a while. And I've noticed from practice that generally it doesn't. Like when I go into the things, it gets worked through. But it's sort of a question you got to ask, like, is that what I feel like doing right now? And sometimes in life, it's like you need extra support to be able to work through some of that stuff, some of the chronic challenging emotions, like chronic stuck anger, chronic stuck anxiety, chronic stuck sadness, when they're not just something that comes and goes, like that happens to all of us, but they're really there a lot of the time. That's an indication that there's work that needs to be done. Whether you do it through a meditation practice, which can be one way of working with it, or you do it with a psychotherapy practice with some kind of body-based somatic practice, which is what really helps me. And often all of them in conjunction can work. And I don't really, so it's sort of, it kind of depends on where you're at and what you feel resourced with. But I would say if you're having a lot of that chronic challenge stuck stuff, it's super useful to talk to somebody about it, just to get perspective on what's going to be the best strategy. Maybe the meditation is the best strategy. You can handle it on your own. It's totally cool. It will work through with that stuff. But it may be that you need to do another kind of intervention in the meantime. And it's just a numbers game, to be honest. It's just a time game. Like you do the practice. Unfortunately, we have this idea that, okay, I'm going to do this practice. I'm going to open to this challenging feeling, as if you're going to open it, then it's going to be gone. Everything's going to be hunky-dory. But it doesn't work like that. Sometimes you open to it and it's there for a while. Sometimes it's there for years. It's just part of your experience that you got to and you start to see, oh yeah, I'm actually really angry about this. I've been maintaining this thing here going on in my experience. It's not healthy for me. And you start to see that there are ways in which you are no longer, you can change your relationship to it. So you're no longer kind of maintaining that chronic activation. So I hope that makes a little sense. I've talked a lot more about this. I talk a lot more about it in the Dan book, about the different elements of this. It's sort of an ongoing exploration for me. And yeah, so that's one answer here. Oh, cool. I see my friend Jeff here. Hey, Jeff. Okay, so a few questions. Talia says, love that. I noticed I felt a bit nauseous or dizzy opening her eyes. Is that normal? I mean, normal. What's normal? I mean, it's one of many things that can happen. Um, it may be that, I mean, it's kind of nice to come back into the body a little bit and get kind of grounded in the body at the end of a meditation and just chill before you open your eyes. I could have let it that way. Maybe I should have. Actually, it relates to Jeff's question. He's saying that he found the bell really surprising. So maybe I'll do a softer bell and give you guys more of a warning. That might help with it. But yeah, there are different kinds of effects that can happen at the end. And then Eric's saying, oh yeah, thanks, Eric. Okay, well, I mean, that's one big question we answered. Feel free to email me more if you've got something else. And it's so good to be doing this with you guys. Yeah, much affection. I'm going to sign off here and have some late dinner. Bye, guys.